This deck will make you lose all your friends? Well, I gotta click on that. It must be broken. Look at all these crazy decks out there. There's no way these deck tech videos would fail to deliver on the promises they make in the title or thumbnail. Wait a second. None of these decks are very interesting. Most of them are bare bones basic commander decks. It's just random mid-range piles. And these supposedly super broken lose your friends decks aren't even very powerful. They're just light stacks or group slug. Maybe they have a combo or play some amount of removal. So many of these are not very special or interesting. Come on, one of these thumbnails has to be telling the truth. Wait, what about this one? I can finally be a lizard. It worked! I'm living the dream! I don't like deck tech videos. This is a bit of a crash out. Before I rant, I want to remind you that if you want to buy a new commander deck after watching one of these epic deck techs, consider going to Cool Stuff Inc. and using my code TTM at checkout for a discount. Plus, it supports the channel and you'll get this cool token. Super fast disclaimer, not all deck techs suck. There are creators who make interesting decks. There's also nothing wrong with making a video about your deck if you feel strongly about it. Snail and Elk do that sometimes, and I have no problem with that. I even make videos about decks occasionally. As a YouTuber, I totally understand using a deck to frame an idea or story. Your favorite deck building creator is probably really cool. That said, most of these suck. Thanks to my patrons, by the way, for making these fake thumbnails for me so I can use them as references and I don't have to call anyone specifically out. Y'all made some great thumbnails. Link to the Patreon below if you want to do stuff like this. Look, I get wanting to clickbait a bit for your video. You gotta get viewers in the door. I understand. Just titling your video Blank Commander Deck Tech simply won't get many views because most people who already care about that deck probably built it already. As YouTubers, we embellish. But you need to at least slightly back up that claim. Let's start with some of the unfun decks. Maybe this is a me thing, but every time in a video or in person, when someone describes an unfun deck, it's never actually unfun. A lot of these are just powerful commanders that fold to removal, value engines that fold to removal, removal engines that fold to removal. Are you sensing a theme here? Like, I get why stacks pieces are salty, but complex value engines or kill on sight commanders? Really? Some commanders are very much, hey, if I untap, I win. And those are boring, the games are very binary, I get that. It shouldn't be that salt-inducing, it's just a removal check. And if it's just a value commander, not even one that untaps and wins the game, there really shouldn't be much to be mad about. I cannot tell you how many times I have heard players tell me, this deck was so unfun. They assembled Tortured Existence and Archfiend of Ifnir, only for me to blankly stare back and ask why they run 0 creature removal, 0 enchantment removal, 0 graveyard hate, or why everyone in their playgroup is playing creature decks, apparently, because this doesn't do anything against Spellslinger. Almost every one of these unfun decks boils down to, if my opponent plays no interaction, this deck is unbeatable. Which, yeah, most decks are. It's just obvious when a powerful deck uses removal to actually progress its win. If you're playing a deck that is way more powerful than the table, but it is purely proactive, then its higher power level will still let you win, but players might not notice because their game plan didn't get disrupted. They're playing cards thinking they have a chance in the game, when in reality they don't, allowing you to very subtly pub stomp. That illusion is broken when the higher power deck is a control-oriented one, because it wins by slowing the table down and then doing a win afterwards. Even though the secret pub stomping deck is the same power level as the control deck in this example, the control one is the unfun one because players notice the pub stomping more obviously. And a lot of these unfun decks also just fold to the same thing as Infecting Commander. The game turns into a 3v1 because you lose the politics. It's very easy for all 3 players to say, let's beat up the Baral guy. That's the same reason you don't see Skitherix hanging around anymore. It's too easy for all 3 players to say, hey, let's beat up the Infect guy, and then they just lose. This idea about the illusion of choice and subtly pub stomping will probably get its own video in the future, so subscribe for that. In this video though, let's move on to crazy decks. In Commander, you can make some wacky lists. I made a deck that turns the game into Uno. This deck is genuinely weird and wacky. I have also made strange decks built around arcane spells and polymorphing the unspeakable. I made decks with odd sub-themes, difficult to assemble engines, and wacky toolbox packages. Things that are one of one. If I go to EDH Rec and search for these commanders with some of my key pieces in them, you will often find 0 matches or 1, and it's literally my deck. I don't think these decks are the pinnacle of creativity or anything, except maybe the Uno one. That one's pretty great. But I at least try to make my decks somewhat unique or interesting. My goal with any deck is to make it so that when you see the commander, you cannot immediately determine what the deck is doing. I just built Tameo, which is my new salvaging station deck, and it plays the Empire's artifacts in it. There are no other decks playing these artifacts with this commander. To be clear, I'm not saying I'm better than anyone else at deck building or whatever. Honestly, I'm not even the best deck builder I know. My point here is that when you say your deck is crazy and insane, I am expecting something nobody else has cooked up, not doing the most default mid-range value deck of all time full of cards from the top of EDH Rec. Speaking of the default commander deck, most deck techs are about the same power level. I would consider most decks that I see online bracket 2 or 3-ish, which is fine in a vacuum. Most commander decks should suck a little bit. If you are making a bracket 3 deck, your list should be a tad jank, maybe missing some of the best synergy cards, including a couple of funny pet cards. For bracket 2, your deck should be fairly jank, silly themes, wacky synergies, and lots of bad cards. But a lot of these deck techs might claim to be strong, yet are not powerful at all. I think part of that is because players don't know what CEDH is. This might seem weird. What does CEDH have to do with the power of casual decks? If you want to put your deck on a scale, there's literal Garbo of just random cards, and the other end of the scale is CEDH. But if you don't know what the maximum end of the scale is, how are you able to rank your deck in its closeness to the garbage pile? A massive amount of these strong plays in casual EDH fold under any interaction or early game pressure, which is good. Your deck should be easily interacted with. That makes it fair, and we're looking to have a fair game of Commander for the most part. If you clicked on this thumbnail because you were served it, thinking I was going to actually tell you how to just pub stomp, I'm sorry to disappoint. A lot of casual players play within a bubble, and the scope of what they know about the format is rather skewed. If you haven't really played outside that playgroup, you might think the strongest deck is your friend Jimbo's list, when in reality, that deck isn't strong compared to EDH as a whole. Basically, a lot of the quote-unquote powerful decks you see out there in the wild are just not that strong in relation to the rest of the format. So should you never watch a deck tech video? Well, no. I'm not saying you should never watch any video. I'm not your dad, you can do whatever you want online. Okay, maybe there are a few videos you should skip out on. Look, I am skeptical of using EDH Rec for all your deck building needs, but I would never say don't use the website, just know how to use it. Just like deck techs, you need to realize that EDH Rec's data is from random players, some of which might not be very good at deck building. Deck techs are made by random players, and some of those people are flawed. I'll use MTG Goldfish as an example. They play against each other a lot, and even have their own ban list. Their decks aren't bad, but if you look at a list Seth made for their gameplay channel, it might have been made with the idea that Krim will be playing a control deck, and thus his list was skewed in some way. By the way, that is the correct thing for Seth to do. You should think about your local meta and what you actually play against. When you see these people make deck tech videos saying this deck is crazy strong, but it's not, that isn't because they're lying. It's because for them, that deck is truly strong compared to what they play against. It's the strongest deck they've seen. Most Commander players play in a regular playgroup, many creators included. Part of why I don't make many deck techs but focus on generalities is because I don't have a regular playgroup and mostly play EDH with randos at different stores all across the country, and I'm often testing new weird deck ideas for videos. So I see a broad spectrum of what Commander is like playing against a random player from a random place. I think my advice is best as a general idea, which you should take, adjust, and tune for your local meta. And my deck might even fall flat against your local meta because one person plays a deck commonly which beats what I might be trying to do. I've lost a lot of games to Elk's Sephara deck because it is a Voltron deck and requires low to the ground spot removal to beat. Also, Elk specifically knows I play a lot of control decks, and they can't win unless I am attacked by Sephara every turn, regardless of what other players do, because my deck is very likely to be the strongest in the late game. Elk also knows I won't be salty or complain when Elk correctly plays to his outs. This is not how 99% of other players play against me, so my decks are not super well equipped to deal with Sephara piloted by someone who knows to single me out. I often cut my super low cost interaction for more flexibility and value oriented cards. This is because I play against such a wide swath of decks, I need to be able to handle literally anything. So what makes an actually good deck tech video? Two things. One, they are not trying to sell you on power level. Power level is simply not super relevant for casual commander. Decks should be fun and consistently fun, not powerful. If you're looking for raw power, casual EDH isn't what you should be doing. Plus, if you play against interaction, most casual decks should be fine in terms of power if their win conditions are all aligned in strength. And the second factor is that the deck tech video frames something rather than just reads off cards, so that you can understand how a player came up with a deck and what really makes it tick. Copying a list one-to-one is totally fine, but unlikely to be as effective as taking the core idea of a deck and then adjusting it to your personal meta. Plus, if they just read off the cards, you might not know how the deck operates. Pro tip for any YouTubers out there, if you talk about an idea instead of just reading off a card list, it gets better retention. Otherwise, why would a viewer sit through a video when they could just click on the deck list link and get the same experience? You might be wondering why I bothered to make this video, if it's just a bunch of complaints about how deck techs are presented on YouTube. No reason really, I just wanted to rant about it. The normal weekly uploads are just small topics I feel like talking about. I usually don't talk about topical things, and I just try and yap about what interests me. I think that makes for better videos, because I actually care about it. Usually the goal with these is to generate some discourse or gauge audience feedback on some specific topic, like how this one teased the illusion of choice video, which will likely be its own larger project later. For the most part, the longer videos that are commonly at the end of the month, or the 1 hour serious videos, are what I consider main Trinket Mage vids. This is purely made to be entertaining and thought-provoking and hold you over till the next larger project. So let me know how I did in the comments below. In conclusion, Quips and Guac embodies all of these ideas perfectly and receives my award for the best EDH deck tech YouTuber according to me award. Ozalon asks, I've tried to make a Drago control style deck several times now, and I've never won a game with any of them. This might be a skill issue, but it seems like with 3 opponents, it's hard to stop all of their value engines. And if I don't, or one slips through my wall of removal, they can blow me up before I'm able to get to a point where deploying finishers / getting enough chip damage makes sense. The question is, how do you go about winning with a Drago control deck exactly? The short answer is Drago control sucks in casual commander, especially without combo as a win con. The long answer is you need to prioritize the highest value engines your opponents play early game, and a few of the weaker ones might need to resolve. Then ideally a board wipe will let you clear the smaller value engines at once, and from there you should pivot into locking down the board and preventing more card draw. Even more ideally, you should be able to deploy your value early and have the board wipe be one-sided in some capacity, so you have cards and your opponents don't gain more cards. A lot of times timing that first board wipe is the make or break key moment in winning a game with Drago control. I will admit it is hard to do, and a lot of my Drago control lists do not perform very well. Good luck. Thanks for watching. If you want to join the Patreon to be in the credits like this, or you want to ask questions like that, or you want to make fake thumbnails, link to that all below.